I grew up on Great Neck, Long Island, in my grandparents' house for the most part, with my parents who were living there as well. And my grandparents were Jews who left Iraq in 1946 and came to the United States. And so I grew up in a community that had a lot of kind of diverse representation of Jewish culture. So there were a lot of Ashkenazi Jews of Eastern European descent, but I grew up in this house where all of the Jewish food was dishes like aruk and hasha, dishes that came from Iraq, but I associated them with a certain kind of Jewish upbringing that for me was what I would come to know as being very much a part of Arab culture, and not something that was steeped in what one would think is New York Jewish traditions. I was 16 years old when Iraq invaded Kuwait. It was on the evening of the first airstrikes when my mother saw my brothers and I watching the green-tinted CNN images, and she said, you know, there's no Iraqi restaurants in New York. What she was telling me was that there was no Iraqi culture beyond oil and war that was visible in the United States. I remember approaching my mother and saying that we should do something, and that something was something as simple as teaching her Iraqi recipes as a form of resistance to this culture of war. It started out as workshops that we taught to different New York City public audiences. In Chicago, Enemy Kitchen has evolved to become a food truck. This idea that we would have not weapons of mass destruction, but weapons of mass deliciousness traveling through the city in this truck. But then the staffing of the truck, there were Iraqi refugees who were the chief chefs and American combat veterans who had come back from the war that were the sous chefs and the servers. So these fists that were holding weapons on the other side of the world are now here, and they're making kebab. And so you're taking in that kind of sculptural void as a sort of communion. I think every day about the way that my work hasn't necessarily been washed away by cynicism yet. I don't want to leave that burden only to a younger generation. For as long as I'm here, I want to believe that there's something that can be done.